My name is Mark Johnson, and welcoming you to our public meeting to discuss our Gracewood Neighborhood Sidewalk project. Before we get started, there's just a few housekeeping things I would like to mention. One is just to keep the background noise down. I'd appreciate if everybody remains on mute. We'll have an opportunity at the end of the presentation to where we can unmute and you'll be able to ask questions. The other thing is you'll notice on the lower bottom right-hand side there is a little chat button. If you want to ask a question, you can use that. During the presentation, just chat to everyone and we will respond. And that's another way for you to ask a question. Also, at the bottom there is a poll button that you can click on. And we would like to encourage you to click on that and support our project as we move forward. The other thing I'd like to mention is we are recording this presentation so that we can share it later. And also, I would like to ask if we have any public officials that have joined us for the meeting. If we do, we can just unmute right now for everybody so you can introduce yourself. Do we have any public officials with us this evening?
Hi, Mr. Johnson. This is Commissioner Vice Mayor Kevin Biederman.
Welcome. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you for doing this project.
You're welcome. So before we get started, I'd like to just share with you the agenda for the meeting. If I can toggle my screen down. We're going to make a few introductions. I have some other members of our city project team here. Also, with some contact information. Then we'll kind of go through a brief summary of the project and why we want to do this project. Also, I think it's important I share with everybody the actual grant application process so there's a general understanding if we are successful and we are awarded the grant, when we could actually receive funding and start construction. So we'll talk a little bit about the grant application process. After that, as I mentioned, we'll have an opportunity where we can unmute and have a discussion and answer any questions. After that, we'll adjourn the meeting. So first off, as I started out, my name is Mark Johnson. I'm the project manager, and I will be leading the effort here to make this grant application as we move forward. If you do have any questions later on, the best way to reach me is by my email address, mljohnson@hollywoodfl.org. Due to the COVID, that's probably the best way to respond, as quite a few of us are telecommuting. Also, our city engineer, Azita, I'm not sure if she's with us right now, but Azita's contact information is there as well as our assistant city engineer, Clarissa. Also, we have a couple of our staff engineers that are working on this project, Jose Garcia and Rick Mitker, and you can see their contact information there as well. So the project itself, the location, is bounded to the east by State Highway 7 and to the west by North 64th Street Avenue between MacArthur High School and the elementary school there. And then to the north, the boundary is Johnson Street, and to the south is Hollywood Boulevard. This area platted out is known as the Gracewood neighborhood. And so this is the focus of our area for our project. The reason we're doing this project is to improve pedestrian safety in this location. We've identified a lot of gaps in the sidewalks in this neighborhood. So this project, the intent is to fill in those gaps with new sidewalks. When we do that, it's definitely going to provide a very safe network for our pedestrians to move to and from the schools in the area and also some of the retail locations. So it's definitely going to improve safety and allow people to do a lot more walking in the area. So this map here depicts the areas that we've identified that has gaps in the sidewalk. The red lines indicate where currently today there are no sidewalks. The green areas indicate where we do have sidewalks. So we've estimated about 3.5 miles of new sidewalk that we will be installing in this area. I want to mention that we're not refurbishing any existing sidewalk in this project. It's all primarily new sidewalk that we plan to fill in the area. So it's quite an extensive project. These two pictures here just give us a better idea of what we're talking about. Up here on the top left-hand side, you can see where the sidewalk just ends pretty much in the front yard here. So if someone is on this sidewalk, they're going to have to walk through the grass here, across a couple of driveways, and the sidewalk begins again down here. So these are the gaps that we're talking about filling in. And down here on the lower right is another example where we have a section of sidewalk that cuts across a few driveways and picks up further down the road there. The sidewalks themselves are going to be located within the right-of-way area. The exact location will be dependent on any encumbrances such as trees, utilities, and those kind of things. The project definitely will involve some clearing and grubbing. Potential tree removal, we're going to try to do as much as possible without removing any trees. And that's why I said the exact location of the sidewalk will be dependent on that. And it could vary from street to street and location to location, but generally within the right-of-way area. So that's the overall scope of our project and what we plan to do. And as I mentioned, we are submitting this project as a grant. And so let's talk a little bit about the grant here and the application process. The grant program itself, it's a lengthy name, and the acronym we use is called CSLIP, but the actual grant name is Complete Streets and Other Localized Initiatives Program. So it's a very lengthy name, and we commonly refer to it as CSLIP. The grant itself is managed by our Broward County MPO, or the Metropolitan Planning Organization. This organization is the one that's going to be responsible for receiving all the grant applications. It is a competitive grant program. All the other municipalities in the county will be submitting projects similar to ours, and they will be evaluated and ranked by the MPO. The funding is federal funding. So with federal funding, there comes quite a few requirements, and I've listed a few here just to point out that there is a cap of $3 million per project, and that $3 million is just for construction. And as you know, there's always a lot more than just construction. Obviously, we've got things like engineering and design costs, surveying costs, inspection costs while the contractor's doing the construction, and potential landscaping costs for some minor landscaping that may be required. So all those costs would not be covered by the grant. Now, if we're successful, and I hope we are successful, those costs would be borne by the city as we move forward with the project. The application for the grant is not that far away. It's just around the corner, November 18th. So we are working hard right now to pull together our engineering cost estimates and all the other documentation that's required for this grant application. One of the criteria is that we do have public support for this project, and that's one of the reasons that we wanted to hold this meeting, and one of the reasons that we're wanting to try to obtain that support from the community that we can share with the MPO, that lets them know that the community and the members of the community are supportive of this project that will help us during the evaluation process. The actual evaluation process is, in my opinion, it's pretty lengthy. Once we do submit the projects to the MPO, there is a vetting process where they first of all look at the projects to see if they actually meet the criteria for the projects. If we get through that stage gate, then the projects are evaluated by a technical advisory committee. And I think there's a couple of other reviews that they go through. But bottom line is, once we submit the grant application, we probably won't know if we're successful or not until October, December of next year. So about 12 months from the time we submit the application to when we find out if we're successful. Once we are notified if we are successful at the grant, there is a lag between when we're notified and when we actually receive the funding. And we're estimating that we could probably receive the funding sometime in 2025, maybe before. So it's important to know that if we make this grant application and we are successful, it still is going to be a few years out before we actually start the construction.